You don't belong here. Move.
Security to window 3, now.
Bank lobby, mid-morning. A teller jabs a finger. You don't belong here. Glass. Cameras. A hush. The black CEO doesn't argue. He slides a metal card, taps the speakerphone. Log everything. On-screen timer 7. Tick. Security is called. Phones come up. The supervisor smirks. The intercom pops. Policy? Evidence? Why only me? He asks once. One call to operations, branch ID, agent code, KYC logs. Tick 6:12. The room shifts. Quiet Power just entered the chat. The bank lobby hums with mid-morning traffic, a clean line of customers, and a row of teller windows under bright desk lights. A man steps forward with an appointment email open on his phone and a metal card in his wallet. Before he finishes hello, the teller leans across the counter and jabs a finger toward his chest. You don't belong here. The air drops a few degrees. People go quiet without meaning to. A couple near the rope stanchions glance up from their deposit slips. The security guard shifts his stance but stays where he is. Behind the glass, a supervisor folds her arms and watches, lips pressed into a smile that never reaches her eyes. The black CEO does not argue. He sets his phone face up on the counter, taps the speaker, and places the metal card beside it, so both are in the frame of the camera lens above the window. He angles the appointment email, the subject line clear, private banking review at 1015. He speaks evenly, please log everything. A digital timer appears on screen in the corner of the video feed he is recording. 7:00. It starts to count down. The teller barks for security through the intercom. The crackle carries through the lobby. A woman in line raises her phone and starts filming. A few more follow. Someone whispers that they have never seen anyone talk to a customer like that. The supervisor raises a hand as if swatting a fly, signaling the teller to keep going. Policy? The CEO asks. Evidence? Why only me? No answer. Just another finger point. The teller flicks a glance to the supervisor. She nods toward the door as if to speed the removal along. Tick. 6:52. The CEO makes a single call. The phone auto-labels the contact, operations, a calm voice answers and introduces name and role. The CEO keeps it concise. Branch ID, agent code. Pull KYC and SOX and AML logs for this window. Pull calendar invites for 10:15. Confirm VIP flag on the account. Record intercom audio. He ends each line with please and the word now. Cameras stare back from the ceiling like unblinking witnesses. The guard inches closer but does not touch anyone. The crowd parts just enough to give the phone mic clean audio. Someone whispers that it looks like a compliance drill. The CEO does not react. He watches the timer. 6:21. The ops voice returns on speaker. Appointment found. Flag verified. Access notes show pre-clearance and an established relationship manager. A pause. Ops asks to confirm the staff names handling the interaction. The teller stiffens. The supervisor straightens. The CEO slides his driver's license through the slot and lays his badge beside it. He does not raise his voice. He repeats the 3 questions in the same order. Policy, evidence, why only me? The supervisor leans into the intercom and announces that the customer is not authorized to be in this area. The intercom squeals. A man near the back blurts that the sign behind the velvet rope reads, private banking by appointment only, not restricted area. Phones tilt to capture the sign. 5:50. Ops asks for a CCTV timestamp. The CEO says the timer runs at 5:48. Cross-reference with teller window 3. Upload audio and stills to the case file. Generate a ticket number. The ops voice acknowledges and reads a number aloud. People in line hear it and quietly repeat it like a proof code. The teller tries again. We can handle your needs at the regular counter. The phrase lands like a label, not an option. The CEO looks at the metal card on the counter and then at the camera. He does not touch the card. He does not move from the line marked for appointments. His phone vibrates. An email flashes to the top of the screen. Subject reads, branch access variance detected. The supervisor sees it and looks away. The guard asks if anyone needs assistance. The CEO nods once. Document staff instruction to relocate the customer off the booked service line, he says into the phone. Note inconsistency with appointment and account tier. Note attempt to escalate to security without cause. 4:59. The room feels different now. People are not just watching, they are listening for dates and times. A woman who works in the building steps out of the line and quietly states on camera that she saw the same customer in this branch last quarter at a private desk with a banker. She spells her name and states the time. The truth keeper shows up without fanfare. Ops returns. Logs pulled. Audio captured. CRM contradicts the denial. A compliance manager is joining the call. The teller swallows. The supervisor uncrosses her arms. The CEO never raises his voice. He just says one sentence that makes the walls feel closer. I am here for standards. 4:23. The countdown keeps moving. The outcome is already tilting. The countdown hangs in the corner of his phone like a metronome for discipline. 4:17. The lobby noise flattens into the soft hiss of HVAC and distant printers. Operations stay on speaker, voice steady, building the case brick by brick. They ask for the branch roster on duty. The CEO reads the nameplate at the window, then the supervisor's badge. He spells both slowly for the file. Calendar invites come back first. The system shows a meeting block for 10:15 with a private banker, room 2, door code ending in 48. CRM notes show the account tagged owner tier with cash management and treasury services, the kind that live behind the glass wall. Ops marks a line in the case, denial inconsistent with CRM and calendar. The words land with weight, even though they're just words. The supervisor steps closer to the intercom and says the customer still needs to wait at the regular counter. The teller repeats the line, thinner now, as if reciting policy from memory without the policy in hand. Policy, evidence, why only me? The CEO says, again, unchanged. He angles his camera to catch the sign behind the rope that reads, by appointment only. An older man in line points at the sign and says, it's been there for years. Couple of phones pan to it, proof multiplies. 3:52. Ops adds compliance to the call. A new voice asks for a time check and the case number. The CEO reads both and then asks for the intercom recording and CCTV from window 3 to be locked and mirrored to the case. Compliance answers that they're already pulling the clip. They ask whether any physical contact has occurred. The CEO says no and thanks the guard for maintaining distance. The guard nods, relieved to be named as a restraint rather than a weapon. The teller tries a soft reset. Sir, if you could just step over there while we sort this out. The CEO looks at the timer. 3:31. He keeps his place on the appointment line and speaks for the record. My booking is for this window and this tier. The regular counter isn't authorized to handle account owner approvals. He leaves it at that. The facts do the pushing. A woman from the back steps forward, the one who filmed first. She states her name and employer and that she is a frequent customer. She says she has seen this client in the private rooms twice, that he arrived with a relationship manager, and that nothing about his presence is unusual. Ops asks her to send her clip to a secure link. Compliance texts the upload URL, and the woman nods. The truth keeper, second witness. 3:04, the supervisor's smile drops. She leans to the teller and whispers, forgetting the intercom mic is still live. Just mark him as guests only. We don't have his RM here. The line crackles through the ceiling speaker like a confession. Two people in line catch each other's eyes. Ops asks the CEO to confirm that phrase. He repeats it. Guests only. Their keystrokes are audible for a second. The case docket expands. An automated email pings the CEO's phone again. Branch variance repeated. Escalation level raised. Ops says the system triggered it off the intercom capture and the CRM conflict. Compliance requests badge access records for staff logins this morning. A tech on their end adds the badge numbers to the query. The teller stiffens at the sound of his ID being read back. 2:38. The guard clears his throat and asks the supervisor whether he should escort the customer outside. The supervisor hesitates, sees the phones, and says the guard can wait by the door. The guard takes 2 steps back, palms open. The CEO nods once. Thank you for holding position, he says, and asks Ops to note that the guard complied with non-contact guidance. Small choices become large evidence. A junior teller edges forward from a side desk. She is careful, professional, and speaks at a volume the phone can catch. She says the relationship manager left a binder last night with documents for a 10:15 review and handed it to the supervisor at opening. She says the binder is still in room 2. The supervisor's jaw tightens. The junior teller gives her first name and last initial for the record. Ops thanks her and asks her to place the binder on the counter under camera. She brings it out. The bank logo and the client's initials sit on the spine. The crowd sees it. The tension changes again. 2:09. Ops asks the CEO for one more item, a quick ID verification for regulator audit. He slides his driver's license next to the metal card, then a second badge that does not look like a customer badge. He does not explain it. Not yet. Compliance reads back the last 4 of the DL, the appointment code, the window number, and the time. 2 minutes flat. The supervisor tries to recover with authority. "Sir, we reserve the right to refuse service." The CEO finally lifts his eyes to hers. "On what policy? Based on what evidence? And applied to whom besides me?" he asks. The words are calm enough to make the room feel like a courtroom. No one answers. A laser printer chirps from somewhere behind the glass, as if embarrassed to break the silence. Ops comes back, voice firmer. We have pulled intercom audio, CCTV, CRM, calendar, and badge logs. Conflicts confirmed. A compliance manager is on the way to the branch and will arrive shortly. Until then, please maintain the customer at his appointment position and refrain from further escalation. The supervisor starts to say understood but stops. The teller looks like he's trying to stand still inside his own suit. 1:46. The timer rolls, the case builds, and the lobby begins to understand that this is not a dispute over courtesy. It's an audit happening in real time, anchored to names, timestamps, and systems they can't edit. Quiet power works best when the room is forced to see the machinery. The CEO doesn't add pressure, he lets the process do it. And the process is almost done warming up. The countdown slides past 1:40, the lobby heat clicks on and then off, the small sounds you only notice when people stop talking. Operations stays on speaker, now joined by a second voice who identifies as legal. They ask for a clean time check. The CEO reads it off the screen and adds the case number. He does not fill silence with adjectives. He lets the numbers carry the weight. Legal asks to confirm 3 facts for the record. Appointment at 10:15 for private banking. Account flagged owner tier. Staff attempted to redirect to the regular counter without policy citation. Operations adds a 4th line in the case. Intercom broadcast requesting security before any policy review. The screen on the CEO's phone shows the updates in real time. Each line lands like a small door closing. The supervisor tries a new angle. She says the relationship manager is unavailable and therefore service cannot proceed. The junior teller who brought the binder glances toward room 2. She says the relationship manager left written instructions and approvals in that binder with signatures and a checklist. Operations asks her first name again, thanks her, and asks her to open the front cover under camera. The camera catches the first page, the client initials and the date sit at the top. There is a note in plain language instructing staff to greet the client at the appointment window and proceed. 1:22. Phones in the line keep filming. Nobody raises a voice. The guard rests by the door with hands visible. Legal asks to log names and positions for the on-site team. The CEO reads the nameplates and confirms them against badge logs that operations already pulled. Legal asks to hold audio for a moment. There is typing, a short pause, and then they return with a direction that sounds like a guideline rather than a threat. Maintain the appointment position, no further escalations, and preserve evidence until an investigator arrives. The teller clears his throat and offers a card for a customer service hotline. The CEO looks at the timer and then at the card. He does not take it. He repeats the 3 questions: policy, evidence, why only me? The words feel routine now, like a calibration check that tells the room it is still aligned to something objective. The supervisor exhales and looks toward the back office. A silhouette moves behind frosted glass. 1:07. A third voice joins the call. She identifies as the regional compliance manager. She asks for a time check, and it comes back at 1 minute and 1 second. She asks that the staff stop using the intercom for anything not related to safety, and confirms that all footage is mirrored to the case. She also asks whether the client present is the same owner who approved the last service upgrade for this branch. Operations says the file shows that is correct. That sentence turns a few heads. The supervisor stares at the metal card on the counter. It is still untouched. The CEO finally lifts it and places it under the phone camera with the backside up. The camera picks up a small embossed mark that is not a bank logo. Legal goes quiet for a second and then asks a simple question. Sir, are you here solely as a client today? The CEO answers, I am here as a client and I am present as a board ethics auditor observing standards. The words do not come with a drum roll. They arrive like a document stamped received. The guard straightens without moving his feet. The junior teller glances at the supervisor and then looks back at the camera. The teller swallows and adjusts his tie. 50 seconds. The regional compliance manager speaks again. Thank you for the clarification. Given the conflict between CRM and the treatment observed, we are initiating an immediate branch standards hold. She asks operations to trigger a freeze on incentive programs tied to this location and to suspend discretionary access for the 2 staff on camera pending review. She asks the guard to maintain distance and to ensure no one deletes or moves any binder or device. The supervisor starts to push back with a sentence about discretion. The compliance manager interrupts with a steady tone. This is not discretionary. This is a standard event. Please step back from the window and await the investigator. The supervisor lets her hands drop to her sides and takes 1 step back. The teller steps back too, shoulder blades touching the partition. 33 seconds. The junior teller places the binder flat under the camera and points quietly to the checklist. The first item reads, verify arrival and proceed without delay. She does not editorialize. She just points. The compliance manager thanks her by name and asks operations to note her cooperation in the case. The room hears the keystrokes again. People in line exchange a look that says this will not evaporate when the phones go away. The CEO checks the timer and then speaks 1 sentence into the phone. Continue the poll. Mirror to the regulator file. Notify the board office. He is not loud. He does not try to score points. He lets the process drive. The countdown keeps sliding towards 0. The next sound in the lobby will be a door opening, not for security, but for an investigator carrying a tablet and a list of names. And when that happens, the story will not be about a scene in a lobby. It will be about a system that remembers its own rules in time. 29 seconds. The lobby is so quiet that the HVAC click sounds like a metronome. A woman with a tablet steps through the glass doors, shows a credential to the guard, and walks straight to window 3. She introduces herself as the field investigator, confirms the case number aloud, and asks for a time check. The CEO reads it off his phone. 23 seconds. She asks 3 things without changing her tone. Confirm the appointment window, confirm the account tier, confirm that intercom security was called before policy review. Operations answers each from the mirrored file. The investigator nods and asks the supervisor to step away from the mic. The supervisor hesitates, then moves back 1 pace. The teller follows. 19 seconds. The investigator places her tablet flat, scans the binder barcode, and the client initials snap onto her screen. She scrolls to the checklist and stops at the first line. Verify, arrival, and proceed without delay. She reads it once, softly, like she wants the words to settle in the room. Then she asks, who received this binder this morning? The junior teller gives her name again. The investigator thanks her, then asks where it sat before this moment. Room 2, on the second shelf, prepped and open. The supervisor stares at the floor. 13 seconds. The investigator requests the intercom clip. Operations pushes it to her tablet. The lobby hears the faint echo of the earlier call for security, then the whisper about marking the client as guests only. The investigator looks up. She asks the supervisor what policy that phrase refers to. No answer. She turns to the teller. He opens his mouth and closes it. 9 seconds. The investigator asks the guard to confirm whether any attempt was made to remove the client. The guard says no, and that he was told to hold position. The investigator thanks him by name. She asks operations to mark the guard's compliance and the junior teller's cooperation. Keystrokes ripple through the speaker. 5 seconds. The investigator turns to the CEO. For the record, are you present solely as a client? The CEO answers the same way he did before. I am here as a client. I am also present as a board ethics auditor observing standards. The investigator gives one short nod and taps her screen. 0. The tablet chirps. Operations confirms a branch standard hold has been executed. Incentive programs tied to this location are frozen. Discretionary access for the supervising staff on camera is suspended pending review. The investigator asks the supervisor to place her badge on the counter. The supervisor sets it down beside the metal card, eyes on the floor. The teller sets him next to it. The tablet vibrates again. Badge access disabled. The room breathes out but stays very still. The investigator asks the junior teller to maintain the appointment window and to proceed with the scheduled review under remote guidance. She repeats that no one is under arrest and no one is to be touched. She asks the CEO if he is willing to continue as a client in the interim. He says yes. He does not add anything else. Operations reads back a timeline. Intercom call at 9:53:31. Appointment confirmation at 9:55:15. Binder scans at 9:59:41. Standards hold at 10:00. The numbers give the shape of what happened. There is no space left for impressions. The supervisor tries one last angle. She says the staff were acting in good faith under pressure. The investigator answers the way people do when they are done playing with words. Good faith is a finding, not a shield. Policy applies or it does not. She asks again for the policy that justified the redirection and the intercom call. The supervisor looks toward the back office. No one comes out. The junior teller stands with the binder open to the approvals page. She holds there, steady, while operations confirms the signatures. The guard watches the door. The people in line stay quiet, phones down a little now, eyes on the tablet, waiting for the next instruction that tells them what this place really is. The investigator turns the tablet so the counter camera can see the case header. She reads it into the room. Preservation complete. Standards hold active. Preliminary finding of inconsistent treatment relative to tier and appointment. Immediate continuation of client service under supervision. She looks at the CEO and then at the staff. We preserve, we correct, we move forward. It lands like a reset switch disguised as a sentence. The lobby hum does not return. Not yet. The process is still unfolding, and everyone knows the most important pieces are the ones that leave the room with a file number attached. The investigator keeps her tablet flat on the counter and asks operations to open the branch activity map for the morning. A floor plan appears with colored dots marking logins at teller windows and doors. Window 3 lights up at 9:42. The staff lounge shows a badge swipe at 9:49 with the supervisor's ID. The investigator asks for the note attached to that swipe. Operations reads it. Pre-shift huddle. Reminder to triage VIP overflow to regular counter. The investigator looks up. She asks, who wrote that line? Silence holds for a beat. Operations says the system shows the supervisor's PIN. The junior teller does not move. She keeps the binder open to the approvals page. The guard shifts his stance to keep the entry clear. The people in line lean but do not crowd. The investigator asks legal to add the huddle note to the case file and to preserve the PIN audit. Legal confirms and requests that the branch email server mirror the last 7 days of messages with the tag VIP overflow. A tech at operations says the mirror is in progress. The CEO checks the timer in the corner of his phone out of habit. It is now rising since the hold executed, a count up that marks everything after the reset. 2 minutes and 12 seconds since the hold. He speaks once. Please add this to the record. The investigator nods for him to continue. Staff attempted to redefine a booked service as overflow without policy basis. Staff attempted to remove access to the appointment line. Staff called for security before any policy review. Each line lands clean, not dramatic. The supervisor finally speaks. She says the branch has had issues with people claiming appointments that were not in the system. The investigator asks for examples tied to case numbers. The supervisor does not have any. Operations searches the queue and says they find 2 incidents in the last quarter, both resolved at the door once IDs were checked. Neither involved a call for security. The investigator notes the mismatch between claim and record. The lobby hears it and remembers it. The junior teller clears her throat and says the relationship manager left an internal email for the team this morning reminding them that owner-tier clients arriving for book reviews should be greeted at the appointment window and taken to room 2. She says the email subject included the client's initials. Operations finds it and reads the first line into the case. The investigator asks for a copy to be attached. The junior teller slides the binder over so the tablet camera can capture the sheet with the same initials. She keeps her voice neutral. She does not look for credit. She is simply steady. The investigator turns slightly toward the CEO. For the record, are you willing to proceed with the scheduled review under my supervision while we complete the standards assessment? The CEO nods. Yes. He adds one request. Log the remainder of the interaction and mirror customer service outputs to the same case. The investigator agrees. She asks operations to assign a remote banker to walk the junior teller through the steps in room 2. The phone on the counter lights with a new call labeled Remote Private Banking. Legal comes back to the speaker with a simple sentence. Preliminary finding stands. The investigator may issue on-site corrective directives pending full review. The supervisor hears it and looks at the floor. The teller rubs a thumb along the edge of his badge, even though it no longer opens any doors. The investigator pivots to outcomes. She keeps her tone level. First, continuation of client service. Second, temporary suspension of the supervising staff pending review with pay protected under policy. Third, freeze on local incentive pools until recertification. Fourth, preservation of all communications and footage. She asks the supervisor to hand over the branch key fob used to open room 2. The supervisor places it beside her disabled badge. It does not make a sound when it lands. The guard nods toward the door as a courier arrives with a slim envelope. The investigator signs and opens it. Inside is a printed copy of the compliance checklist for bias drills and service recertification. She places it beside the binder and asks the junior teller to post the checklist in the break room before the next shift. She then turns to the line and explains that the branch will complete the scheduled appointment and then close for a short period to run the drills. She thanks the customers for their patience and offers to waive any fees that would be incurred by delay. Operations confirms the waiver code and reads it out loud for anyone who needs it. The CEO has not raised his voice or changed his posture. He says one line into the phone that sounds like a gate closing on a track. Begin the formal audit file transfer to the board office. Copy the regulator. Pause local discretionary overrides. The investigator repeats the instruction and taps her screen. Legal acknowledgement. The room feels like a circuit has been completed. The teller looks at the junior teller and then at the binder. He starts to say something and stops. He chooses a different sentence. I am ready to cooperate with recertification. The investigator nods and asks operations to note the statement. She instructs the teller to step back to training mode until the review. The supervisor starts to object and then remembers that her access is already suspended. She sits on a side stool, hands on her knees, eyes fixed on a point 3 feet in front of her. The junior teller leads the CEO toward room 2 as the remote banker joins on video. The investigator remains at the counter and speaks a final set of directions into the file. Preserve. Correct. Continue service. She looks at the clock over the entrance and then back to the tablet. The branch is not punished for existing. It is corrected for forgetting its standards and reminded how to hold them in public. Room 2 is quiet in the way conference rooms are quiet when they are used for real work. A table, 2 chairs, a small camera near the ceiling. The junior teller sets the binder down, opens a laptop, and accepts the incoming video call. The remote banker appears on screen, gives name and title, and asks for a quick orientation. The investigator stays in the doorway with the tablet. The CEO takes the client chair and places his phone face up again. The count-up timer sits in the corner. 4 minutes since the standards hold. Operations pushes a secure checklist to the screen. Verify identity. Confirm purpose of visit. Review pending approvals. The junior teller walks each step. She reads the name. She matches the driver's license to the file. She confirms the appointment window and the services flagged for the review. Treasury controls. Account owner approvals. Limits and alerts. The remote banker asks the CEO to confirm that he wants to proceed now. He says yes. His voice has not changed since the lobby. The laptop mic picks up every syllable. The investigator asks for a time check and enters it into the case. She notes that the client has chosen to complete service while oversight continues. Legal adds a line that the client declined to postpone and that the institution will record all outputs to the audit file. The remote banker requests a two-factor code to unlock the approvals. The code lands on the CEO's phone. He reads it aloud. The system opens the screen that allows changes to owner tier features. The junior teller reads each option so the record captures the intent. The camera sees the cursor move and the checkboxes fill. Back in the lobby, a few customers take seats. The guard speaks quietly and points to the bottled water on a side table. The supervisor sits on the stool, hands still on her knees. The teller stands at a side station with his screen locked. He is not touching anything. Operations are mirroring his terminal to ensure nothing is altered. He stares at the floor and then at the ceiling and then at nothing at all. The phones in the line are mostly down now. People keep their place. In room 2, the remote banker asks the CEO to review a draft of service terms. The laptop displays plain text, no marketing language, limits for transfers, approval hierarchy, audit notifications. The CEO reads and approves the paragraphs that match the plan the relationship manager set last week. He asks for one change. Push compliance alerts to his team in real time when account tier rules are bypassed. The remote banker checks the box and saves. Operations notes the change for the regulator mirror. The junior teller's hands are steady. She lifts a small scanner and reads the barcodes on 2 documents from the binder. The screen shows both files and their signatures. The remote banker asks for a live call out of the signatures and the dates. The junior teller reads them slowly. The names land in the case. The investigator nods and marks cooperation again in her tablet. She does not use big words. She lets flow and compliance do the talking. An email pings to the CEO's phone. The subject line reads, "Continuation of service under supervision." He opens it, skims, and passes the phone so the camera can record the content. It confirms that the appointment is proceeding, that a field investigator is present, that incentive pools for the branch are frozen pending recertification, and that a regional training lead will arrive with materials within the hour. The junior teller looks relieved in a small way that does not need to be named. She keeps working. The remote banker asks to finalize 2 items: a control on international wires and a limit on discretionary reversals without a second approval. The CEO approves both and asks that the triggers send alerts to a shared folder for the board office. Operations configures the path. The investigator dictates a note. Change set executed at timestamp with client authorization and remote banker verification. The system chirps an acknowledgement. The checklist moves to done. The guard knocks on the door frame and says, "A courier has returned." The investigator steps out, signs for a second envelope, and brings it in. Inside is a printed letter that explains the standards held to customers and offers a waiver for any fee caused by delay. She asks the junior teller to print copies for the lobby and to email a copy to the people in line. The junior teller does it without fuss. The printer in the hallway makes a clean sound as it feeds the sheets. The supervisor speaks from the doorway. She asks if she may say something for the record. The investigator says yes. The supervisor says she should have escalated to the relationship manager before using the intercom. She says she did not check the binder. The words arrive stiff, but they arrive. The investigator records the statement and notes that further findings will be made by a panel after recertification. The supervisor nods and steps back. The remote banker asks the CEO one last question for the service side. Are there any additional quality of service preferences you want recorded? The CEO keeps his eyes on the screen. He asks for a note to be attached to the file that any future denial of scheduled owner tier service be escalated to operations and legal in real time and mirrored to the same audit channel. He says he prefers not to be the center of any lobby again. The remote banker records that preference and reads it back word for word. Operations confirms that all data from the interaction has been mirrored and that the branch will receive a schedule for drills and recertification. They ask the investigator if room 2 can remain open for 10 minutes while the junior teller prints the confirmations for the client. The investigator agrees and reminds the room that the hold remains in effect for the rest of the branch until the drills are complete. No one argues. No one has anything to add that would help the record. The junior teller hands the CEO a simple folder. Inside are the confirmations, the new control settings, and a receipt that shows no fees charged. The remote banker thanks everyone and ends the call. The laptop returns to the desktop. The investigator checks the time. The count-up says 20 minutes since the hold. She looks at the CEO. He nods once. Standards restored in public view. The next steps will move outside this room, but the part that needed witnesses has been handled with the doors open. The investigator steps back into the lobby with the folder and a calm voice that carries without force. She thanks everyone for their patience and says the scheduled appointment will conclude in room 2. She adds that the branch will pause walk-in service after that to complete drills and recertification. Operations have pushed a short notice to the display screens near the entrance. The words are plain: service continues for scheduled appointments, temporary pause for standard training, fee waivers available. The guard hands out a one-page letter that says the same thing. People read, heads nod. No one raises a voice. The CEO's phone lights with 3 emails in quick succession. The first is from the board office, acknowledging the file transfer and assigning a reference number. The second is a regulator mirror confirmation. The third is a summary from operations noting the standards hold, the incentive freeze, and the suspension of discretionary access for the 2 staff on camera pending review. He tilts the screen so the camera above window 3 can see the subject lines. He does not comment. The room does the math without help. The supervisor stays on the side stool. She has not moved since her statement. The teller stands behind the side station, hands away from the keyboard. He looks like he wants to apologize, but knows the record does not need it. The junior teller steps to the counter with a stack of printed notices and a small roll of tape. She posts one at eye level near the rope line and another on the entrance glass. Customers take photos of the notice, so they have the waiver code in their pocket. Operations asks for a quick inventory. Number of customers waiting, type of transactions, whether any elderly or disabled customers might need accommodation during the temporary pause. The guard and the junior teller walk the line with calm questions and write simple notes. A woman with a stroller needs a cashier check. A man in a suit needs a wire confirmation. 2 people only need deposits and are fine with the ATM. The investigator listens and nods. She asks operations to cue remote assistance for the wire confirmation by video and to issue a cashier check via the service desk once the appointment clears room 2. A soft chime sounds from the supervisor's workstation. Access denied. Badge suspended. The screen is locked to a neutral color with a line that says, "To contact the regional office." She stares for a moment and then looks away. The teller's station remains mirrored by operations. The investigator asks him to sign out under supervision. He does without speaking. When the screen lands on the login prompt, the tension leaves his shoulders by a small degree. The ceiling speakers play a short tone and then a message that the branch will close for a short period after the appointment to run required drills. The tone is not dramatic. It sounds like an airline gate change. Necessary, not punitive. The room accepts it. People step out of line to call coworkers or adjust calendars. Phones are aimed at practical things now. The sign, the waiver code, the clock that shows time remaining before the pause. The CEO steps to the counter and thanks the junior teller by name for steady work and for bringing the binder without prompting. The investigator asks operations to note the commendation. She tells the junior teller that cooperation will be reflected in her file and that she will receive an invitation to assist with training for other branches. The junior teller answers with a simple yes and keeps helping customers with the notices. A small current of relief passes through the line. It feels like the room has decided something more useful than blame. Legal returns on speaker for a brief instruction. Do not discuss internal findings with customers beyond the posted notice. Refer any media questions to the regional office. The guard writes the number on a sticky note and sets it by the phone. No one argues with the guidance. The process is doing enough talking. A man near the back asks if the bank is safe. The investigator says yes and explains that the pause is to make sure staff are aligned to standards. She offers to walk him to the ATM and waive any fee. He nods and follows the guard to the machine, where a small placard already shows the waiver code. The branch is not frozen in fear. It is moving with intent inside a controlled frame. The CEO's phone buzzes again. This time it is a short text from the relationship manager. The message is concise. I am inbound. The training lead is with me. 10 minutes. The The CEO replies with a single word, "Noted." He sets the phone down and watches the room absorb this moment without spinning. Cameras are still up, but their angles have shifted. There is less need to catch a confrontation. The lens is now fixed. The investigator receives a call on her tablet and listens for a full minute. She ends the call and speaks for the record. Regional leadership has authorized immediate recognition for the junior teller for on-system truth-telling and steady performance under review. The lobby hears that and breaks into the only sound that feels right. A light scatter of applause that lasts 2 seconds and then stops. The junior teller flushes but does not change her pace. Operations asks for a final time check before the closeout of the appointment. The investigator reads it. The count up on the CEO's phone passes the 30-minute mark since the hold. The display near the entrance refreshes with a line about the training lead being en route. The supervisor watches it and then lowers her eyes. The teller looks at the printer when it wakes to push out more notices. The guard opens the door for a courier who brings a small box of training materials. The moment is not climactic. It is procedural. That is the point. What started as a denial is turning into muscle memory for a system. The people in the room can feel it. The branch that forgot its standards is learning to say them out loud again. The relationship manager walks in with a training lead from the region. Badges visible. They greet the investigator first, then the guard, then the junior teller by name. No speeches. The investigator confirms the case number and the time. Operations adds both arrivals to the log. The relationship manager thanks the junior teller for preserving the binder and asks if the client wishes to finish any remaining approvals. The CEO says the service side is complete. The relationship manager nods and steps back to listen. The training lead opens a slim case on the counter. Inside are printed drills, a short script for service recovery, and an outline for recertification. The investigator reads the headings and asks operations to mirror the packet to the file. A display near the entrance refreshes to show a simple line. Training team on site. Temporary pause will begin after this appointment. Waiver code remains active. The guard tapes a notice to the inside of the glass and holds the door for a mother with a stroller who is leaving with a smile and a photo of the waiver code. The supervisor remains on the side stool. The investigator asks her to join the relationship manager at a small table and provide a written statement. A thin tablet appears with a clean form. She begins to type. The teller is asked to do the same at a separate table. He complies. Legal logs the time both statements begin and reminds operations to keep a copy of each keystroke in the case. Nothing is hurried. Each step lands in the sequence it belongs in. The training lead asks the junior teller to walk through the appointment flow from the morning as if teaching a new hire. She does it without extra words. Greet at the appointment line, verify identity, confirm tier and purpose. Move to room 2. Pull the binder if present. Scan the documents. Proceed without delay. The regional lead thanks her and says her language will be used in the drill script. Operations notes the line for reuse. A small win is made visible to the room. The CEO stands at the counter and asks for a time check. The investigator reads it, 34 minutes since the standards hold. He asks that the branch push a text to scheduled clients for the day. The message should offer to move appointments to video or to another location, and it should include the waiver code. Operations composes the text and sends a preview to the case. The investigator approves it. A soft chime hits phones in the lobby. People glance down and nod. The relationship manager finishes his review of the binder and closes it with a steady hand. He looks at the supervisor and then at the investigator. He says the approvals were clear and that the client should have been moved to room 2 on arrival. He does not add adjectives. The investigator records the statement and asks legal to include it in the preliminary finding. The supervisor signs her statement and pushes the tablet forward. The teller does the same. The investigator thanks them and asks both to wait in a side room for HR to call. Their access remains suspended. There is no escort. The guard only opens the door. The training lead addresses the lobby in a few sentences. She explains that the branch will pause after this appointment to complete standards drills and that remote bankers can assist with urgent needs by video. She offers bottled water and a quiet space near the window for anyone who needs to make a call. Customers accept the plan. A man in a suit uses the video booth for his wire confirmation. A woman takes a seat and emails her team that she will be 10 minutes late. The screen above the entrance cycles through the notice and the code. An email lands on the CEO phone. The header is from the board office. It confirms receipt of the live file, acknowledges the standards hold, and lists the next steps. Field audit continues. Incentives frozen. Discretionary access for the 2 staff on camera suspended pending review. Regional training mandated before reopen. It also notes that the junior teller will receive a formal commendation for on-system truth-telling and that her cooperation is recommended for a training role. The CEO turns the screen so the counter camera can capture the subject line. He does not comment. Operations asks for a final sweep. Did any staff attempt to alter logs? Are all intercom clips preserved? Are the CCTV mirrors complete? The answers return in clean lines. No alterations detected. Clips preserved. Mirrors complete. The investigator taps her tablet and issues a short directive. Close walk in service in 5 minutes. Maintain the appointment in room 2 until finished. Post training in progress on the door. Resume by schedule only after drills conclude. The guard nods and begins a calm countdown for the room. The relationship manager asks the CEO if he needs anything else today. The CEO says no. He adds one sentence for the record. This is not about punishment. This is about standards. The relationship manager holds his gaze and says, understood. The training lead echoes it. The phrase becomes the air the room is breathing. The junior teller returns with a neat stack of confirmations and a plain folder. She thanks the client for patience and for allowing the process to run in public. The investigator notes that the service is complete and that the branch is entering the pause. The display at the entrance flips to training in progress. The door sign matches. People stand and filter out with their waiver codes and a clear plan for what happens next. The lobby sound shifts again. It is not tense, it is focused. A system that tripped over itself has found its footing under a bright light, and the light is not going off until the steps are muscle memory. The CEO picks up his phone, checks the time, and lets the count-up keep running. The file will keep growing long after the door closes, but the part that needed witnesses has already been written in clean lines. The pause begins with a quiet lock of the front door and a paper sign that matches the display. Training in progress. The guard stands inside the glass. The investigator asks operations for an all-line recording check and a final snapshot of access state. The tablet shows everything the public cannot see but should trust. Badge access suspended for the supervisor and the lead teller. Incentive pool frozen. Intercom clips mirrored. CCTV set to retain beyond the default window. The picture holds steady like a blueprint pinned to a wall. HR joins on video, identifies by name and region, and asks for a time check. The investigator reads it off the tablet. HR begins the on-site portion of the review with 2 documents. A notice of suspension with pay while findings are completed, a directive to complete recertification before returning to customer contact. The supervisor listens with her hands folded. She signs on the tablet. The teller signs next. No raised voices, no debate over adjectives. HR confirms receipt and reminds both that access remains disabled. Their devices vibrate with confirmation emails at the same second. The junior teller stays at window 3, not serving customers, just anchoring the process with her presence. The investigator thanks her for steady work and asks her to help the training lead prep the drill stations. She nods and begins laying out laminated cards. Appointment line flow, ID verify, tier confirm, binder check, proceed without delay. The words are plain and strong enough to stand without decoration. The relationship manager adds a short note to the script. If in doubt, call operations before calling the intercom. It reads like a guardrail, not a rebuke. Operations pushes a branch-wide message to scheduled clients for the afternoon. The text offers video appointments, waives fees, and provides a link to nearby locations. The investigator approves the copy in line with the case. Responses start pinging back in seconds. Thank you for the notice. Video is fine. We'll reschedule. The lobby, now empty of walk-ins, feels like a control room more than a stage. Systems are talking to systems. People are listening. The CEO stands at the counter, phone face up, the count-up timer continuing to roll. He makes one call to the board office and keeps it short. Transfer the live file to governance and quality. Begin the formal branch audit. Freeze local discretionary overrides tied to incentive metrics until recertification is complete. The board office acknowledges. The investigator notes the directive. Legal adds a line for clarity. Scope limited to this location until further review. Precision replaces drama. A courier arrives again and hands the guard a sealed packet. Inside are regulator disclosure templates and a one-page customer notice for branches under standards held. The investigator reads the template aloud so the camera can capture the language. It is clean and factual. We identified a service variance. We paused for walk-in service to correct it. Your access to banking is intact. Fees caused by delay are waived. Contact this number if you need assistance. The relationship manager signs the notice for this branch, and the training lead posts it in the break room next to the drill schedule. The supervisor and teller wait in a side room. HR conducts a brief video exit from the scene, reiterating that no further contact with customers will occur until training is complete, and a panel reviews the file. The investigator thanks them for complying and returns to the counter. Operations confirm that their badges show no active doors. The mirror refreshes to show both accounts flagged for recertification. The screen looks like a traffic light snapped to red and holding until the checklist turns it green. The junior teller finishes laying out the drill stations and checks with the training lead. They run a quick practice loop with the relationship manager acting as a client, greet at the appointment line, verify, confirm tier, move to room 2. The training led to it. 90 seconds from door to desk. She smiles once and says that is the number they will teach. The investigator marks it. A standard is easier to hold when it has a clock attached. The CEO receives a short email from the board office. It confirms that the live file includes commendation for on-system truth-telling and recommends the junior teller for an acting service lead role during drills. The investigator reads the subject line into the record and asks operations to generate a formal commendation message. The printer warms and produces a letter with a header that carries weight without shouting. The investigator hands it to the junior teller and thanks her again. The relationship manager shakes her hand. The guard nods as if to say that this is the right part of the story to clap for, even if no one claps. Legal returns with language for the preliminary finding. Inconsistent treatment relative to appointment and tier. Intercom escalation before policy review, redirection unsupported by CRM and calendar, corrective action executed, training and recertification scheduled. The investigator reads it into the case file, no embellishment, just the shape of the truth. The branch is quiet, but it is not empty of purpose. The display over the door counts down to the first drill. The tablet on the counter shows green checks lighting up as mirrors complete in the background. The CEO sets his phone beside the metal card and looks at the line of documents that brought the room back to center. He says one sentence that lands like a final bracket in the morning. Preserve the proof. Finish the training. Reopen by the book. Operations acknowledged. The training lead calls the team to the first station. The count-up keeps rolling. The room feels less like a scene and more like a standard reasserting itself with witnesses. The first drill starts with the appointment line marked on the floor and the training lead holding a small stopwatch. The relationship manager plays the client. The junior teller greets at the rope, verifies ID, confirms tier, checks the calendar, and moves him to room 2. The stopwatch stops at 85 seconds. The lead nods and says, run it again. The second run lands at 79. The team can feel the difference that a script and a clock make. Operations logs the times in the case and tags them as the new service target. The training lead switches roles and asks the teller to narrate each step out loud as if teaching a new hire. He keeps his voice steady. Greet, verify, confirm, binder, proceed. He adds a line that reads, like a guardrail without shame. If any doubt exists, call operations. The investigator records the sentence and notes that the language will be added to the branch manual. The supervisor watches from the side room doorway with HR on video. She is quiet. The lesson lands without the need to point at her. A second drill covers escalation. The lead asks the team what to do if a client appears in a restricted space without a booking. The junior teller answers first. Confirm identity, check the calendar. If no booking exists, escort to the service desk and offer a quick video consultation with the relationship manager. The lead asks when to use the intercom. Only for safety, not for policy, the teller says. The investigator nods and marks the phrase for the manual in clean text. Operations pushes a short quiz to the staff tablets. 10 items. What is the threshold for owner tier approvals? Which logs are pulled automatically when an intercom call is made? Who has authority to suspend access at a branch during a standards event? The staff answer in real time. Scores populate on the investigator's screen. Both active staff clear the bar. HR notes that the suspended staff will complete the same quiz and drills before returning. The process makes no exception for titles. The branch rehearses a customer notice flow. The training lead and the junior teller practice reading the notice at the door and offering options. Remote video, nearby branch, waiver code. The guard times the script at the glass to confirm it keeps the door closed without causing a line outside. It takes 30 seconds. The lead says that is the number the region will use. Operations saves the script to a shared drive so other branches can pull it today. The relationship manager works with the junior teller to clean up the morning calendar. He calls 3 clients and offers to host them by video. 2 accept. 1 prefers a later slot this week in person. The RM sends a plain confirmation with the waiver code and a sentence about training in progress. The investigator reads the subject lines into the case and marks the branch as operating under a corrective action plan rather than a crisis. The words matter because they set the tone for staff and clients. A message arrives from the board office. It confirms that the preliminary finding will move to a panel next week and that the standards hold will remain until recertification is confirmed by an independent auditor. It also states that the junior teller will receive a formal commendation and a temporary acting service lead assignment during training. The investigator reads the lines aloud for the record and hands the junior teller a letter with a clean header. She thanks the team for steady work and does not make a speech. Legal joins for 5 minutes to review language with the staff. They stress that no one should argue policy with a client in the lobby. The script is to check facts, call operations, and continue service if the record supports it. They note that any denial triggers an automatic mirror of audio and video. That line changes posture more than any lecture could. The teller nods and says he understands. The next drill mirrors the earlier mistake on purpose, with the lead playing the part of a client who is redirected to a regular counter without cause. The junior teller stops the scene and states the correct path while the relationship manager takes the pretend client to room 2. The lead calls time. The branch hits the flow in under 2 minutes. The investigator notes the improvement and tags the clip for use in regional training. The staff can see themselves succeed in a loop built from a moment they would rather forget. The CEO stands at the counter and calls the board office one more time. He asks that the live file be used in a de-identified form to train other branches. He asks that the commendation for the junior teller be public inside the company and private outside it. The board office agrees. He adds one request. Schedule an external civics and service quality partner to review the drill and the script. The investigator writes it into the plan and asks operations to propose 3 groups the company has worked with before. Options arrive within minutes with dates next week. IT confirms that the supervisor and lead teller accounts are locked and that their recertification path requires a passing score and an interview. HR sets the time. The relationship manager volunteers to mentor both through the process. The investigator notes the offer and the condition that a different branch will observe. The guard holds the door open while the training lead brings in a small box of laminated cards. Appointment flow, escalation flow, service recovery. The tools look ordinary, the effect is not. By late morning, the drills run like a smooth loop. The display at the entrance still reads training in progress, and the waiver code has done its work. No one in the lobby looks confused. The junior teller posts a fresh notice that the branch will reopen for scheduled appointments at a set time. Operations confirms the time in the case and sends a text to clients. The investigator checks the list one more time and looks at the quiet counter that held the worst and best of the day. Standards are not a speech. They are a sequence in public view, and this branch is learning to hold that sequence like it belongs to them. By early afternoon, the drills have a rhythm. The entrance display holds steady. Training in progress. The investigator checks her tablet and nods at the cadence of green checks rolling down the screen. Operations confirm mirrors are current. Legal is standing by. The relationship manager and training lead have shaped the loop until it fits the room. The count up on the CEO's phone passes 45 minutes since the standards hold. He sets the phone on the counter and asks for a time check for the record. The investigator reads it and opens a fresh note. The CEO speaks once into the phone with the board office still on the line. Begin outcome directives. He does not raise his voice. He lists them clean in a sequence the room can follow. First, continue client service for scheduled appointments with oversight. Second, Freeze all local incentive pools and discretionary overrides until recertification is complete. Third, suspend the supervising staff and the lead teller from customer contact pending review with pay protected and access disabled. Fourth, mirror the entire case to the regulator file and to governance for panel review. Operations repeats each item and stamps the time beside it. Legal adds that the directives align with policy and have been invoked before at other locations. The words land like anchors set in a calm harbor. He adds 2 more lines that feel like the point more than the punishment. Promote the junior teller to acting service lead for the duration of the drills. Note her on system truth-telling as the reason. Assign the relationship manager to mentor rotation for this branch and 2 nearby locations until the panel concludes. The investigator enters both steps into the case. The training lead smiles and asks the junior teller to stand at the counter. The commendation letter is read aloud in 1 paragraph and then handed over. The room absorbs the shift without applause this time. It reads as a correction that moves forward. The suspended staff wait in a side room. HR confirms their interviews and recertification slots. IT reconfirms their badges and logins are locked. The relationship manager asks to sit in on their training as a coach after the panel. The investigator notes the offer and adds that a different branch will observe to avoid any pressure on this floor. Precision beats emotion again. The CEO asks operations for a quick external partner list for the civics and service quality review he requested earlier. 3 names appear with dates next week. He picks one, an organization the company has used for bias and service standard audits. Schedule it. Mirror the agenda to this case. Confirm that staff participation is on paid time. The investigator captures the details and sends the calendar invite to the regional office. He turns slightly toward the lobby and addresses the small group of customers waiting for scheduled help. Thank you for your patience. We are correcting the branch and continuing service with oversight. Fees are waived for any delay. The training lead and relationship manager echo the message in lighter voices at the edge of the room. People nod. A mother bounces a stroller. A man in a suit checks his watch and relaxes when the video booth connects him to a remote banker. Operations reads back the full morning in a tight timeline to close the loop. Denial at window 3, intercom, call before policy review, appointment and tier confirmed on system, binder produced, logs mirrored, standards are executed at 0 on the timer, drills began, outcomes issued. The investigator asks for the case number 1 more time and reads it into the room. The teller hears the sequence and keeps his eyes on the drill card he is studying. The supervisor listens without interruption. Neither is erased. Both are in a process that has rules and a path back through proof. Legal drafts, a short internal memo for the region with 4 lines that will travel farther than any clip. Treat appointments by the book. Use intercom for safety, not policy. Call operations when in doubt. Proceed without delay when the record supports the client. The training lead attaches the drill video where the team made the corrected choice in under 2 minutes. The memo and the clip are sent to managers within the hour. The CEO asks for 1 last item before the branch reopens by schedule. Post the standards outcome summary on the staff dashboard. Keep names internal to protect the review. Make the commendation visible. Add the 90-second target for moving an owner tier client from door to room 2. Add the sentence that defines the posture for every lobby. We preserve, we correct, we continue service. Operations publishes the card. The investigator watches it appear on a small screen by the break room and checks the time. He picks up the metal card at last and slides it into his wallet. He closes the folder with the confirmations, nods to the junior teller, and thanks the training lead and the relationship manager for steady hands. He looks once at the camera above window 3 and says 1 final line into the phone. Terminate what fails the standard. Freeze what feeds it. Log everything. The investigator repeats each word into the record. The board office acknowledges. The room feels settled, not triumphant. The event has been contained by a system designed to catch and correct. The guard unlocks the door for a client with a scheduled slot. The display still shows training in progress, now paired with a line that reads, open by appointment. The lobby hum returns, lighter and more precise. The countdown keeps running, not as a threat or a countdown, but as a reminder that standards live in time, out loud, in public view. The day is not done. The file is not closed, But the branch has a map and a pace, and the map is printed where everyone can see it. By late afternoon, the branch runs on a quieter rhythm. The entrance display reads open by appointment. Training in progress sits just below it. The investigator checks her tablet and confirms that the mirrors are current. The case file is live, and the standards hold on. Incentives remain in effect. Operations pushes a short dashboard to the staff break room screens. It shows the 90-second target for owner tier intake, the list of drill completions, and a line that repeats the posture for the lobby. We preserve, we correct, we continue service. The board office sends an update that sets the wider frame. The panel date is locked for next week. The external civics and service quality partner is confirmed for an on-site review in 3 days. The agenda includes lobby intake observation, intercom usage audit, and a 15-minute interview with the junior teller about on-system truth-telling. The investigator reads the subject line into the record and forwards the calendar invite to regional leaders. The relationship manager notes that his schedule is clear and that he will host the partner during the visit. The supervisor and the lead teller remain off the floor with access disabled and pay protected. HR confirms their recertification modules have been assigned and that an independent branch will observe their drills. A brief video check confirms both have received the schedule and understand the path back. The investigator keeps the tone even. The process is not designed to humiliate people. It is designed to correct behavior with proof and practice. The guard hears it and nods because the room has felt both versions. Customers with booked times are seen in room 2 without delay. The junior teller handles intake cleanly and routes anything complex to a remote banker. A wire confirmation goes through by video with a screen share and a clear approval trail. A cashier check is printed at the service desk with a waiver applied for the earlier delay. The relationship manager steps in only to read language on a notice or thank someone for patience. The lobby does not feel tense, it feels deliberate. Operations sends a text update to the morning witnesses who opted in at the counter. The message thanks them for their patience and includes a link to a short notice page that explains the standards held in plain language. It lists the fee waiver, the appointment status, and the number to call if they need help before the branch fully reopens. The message avoids names and drama. It stays in process. Click metrics begin to populate on the investigator's screen. People read when you treat them like adults. Legal drafts, a 1-paragraph internal summary for managers across the region. It uses the same 4 lines the training lead has been teaching. Treat appointments by the book. Use intercom for safety, not policy. Call operations when in doubt. Proceed without delay when the record supports the client. A link to the de-identified drill clip is attached. The memo lands in inboxes before close of business. Managers start replying with acknowledgments and requests for the drill packet. Scaling is not a speech. It is a file you can reuse. The CEO stays near the counter, not to loom, but to finish the loop. He confirms that the commendation for the junior teller has been posted internally and that her acting service lead role is active through drills. He asks operations to generate a simple metric card for the next 2 weeks. Average intake, time for owner tier, number of intercom calls, number of times operations is called before an intercom. The card should refresh daily and appear on the staff dashboard. The investigator enters the request. IT confirms the feed. A courier delivers a small stack of letters printed on plain stock. One is the customer-facing explanation of the temporary pause. Another is a letter to the junior teller recognizing her cooperation and inviting her to contribute language to the regional manual. The investigator hands it over. The junior teller reads it, folds it once, and tucks it into the binder she used to steady the room. She does not give a speech. She goes back to work because clients are waiting by schedule. The relationship manager completes 3 follow-ups by phone. He confirms a video appointment for a client who could not wait and schedules an in-person review for a different client later in the week. He uses the waiver code on both, where a delay applied. He logs the calls in CRM with a tag that matches the standards held. The investigator notes that the follow-through matters as much as the morning. People trust institutions that finish the sentence they start. The external partner sends a brief intake form ahead of their visit. It asks for the branch layout, intercom placements, and the drill scripts. Operations forwards the files with case numbers, not names. The partner replies that they will arrive at 10 the morning of the review and will remain until noon. They will produce a short report with observations and practical recommendations. The board office mirrors the email to the case. The process leaves fewer shadows the more you keep it in the open. As the afternoon thins, the investigator takes a final pass through the lobby. The door sign is clear. The display matches the plan. The guard has a checklist taped inside the glass. The junior teller has a laminated card beside her keyboard and a clock in her head that now runs to 90 seconds for intake. The teller who lost access will return if he passes recertification and shows that he can hold the steps without a script. The supervisor will do the same. The branch is not purging people. It is resetting muscle memory. The CEO checks the count up on his phone and sets it down. He asks operations to send the case header one more time and to confirm that all artifacts are preserved. The answer comes back yes. He thanks the investigator, the relationship manager, the guard, and the junior teller by name. He does not linger. He does not pose. He says one line for the record and for the people in the room who will be here tomorrow. Standards are not what you say when cameras are up. They are what your systems do when you do not have to think. The tablet captures the sentence. The lobby breathes like a place that understands it. Morning edges toward evening, and the branch feels like a place that has done work, not theater. The entrance display holds open by appointment. Training in progress sits beneath it. The investigator reviews the case file one last time before handoff. All mirrors complete, intercom clips preserved, calendar and CRM notes attached, badge states documented, incentive pool frozen until recertification clears. She reads the case number for the record and closes her tablet with a nod. Operations pushes the next steps to a single page that everyone in the room can understand. Finish the scheduled appointments with oversight, run drills again in the morning before open, host the external partner at 10, maintain the standards until an independent auditor signs the recertification, use the waiver code for any delay. The relationship manager posts the page in the break room beside the drill schedule. It is not a speech, it is a plan. The junior teller finishes intake for the last booked client and returns the binder to room 2. The investigator thanks her by name and hands over a clean letter that confirms the acting service lead role through training and notes a commendation for on-system truth-telling. She does not ask for praise. She asks whether she should print more notices for the door in the morning. The answer is yes. She sets a reminder on the terminal and moves to the next task without ceremony. HR circles back on video and confirms the recertification path for the suspended staff. Modules due by midweek, drills observed by an independent branch, interviews with a panel after scores are clear, pay protected during training, access stays disabled until completion. The CEO asks for one addition. Assign a mentor for each to walk the steps with them until they can run the flow clean without a prompt. The relationship manager volunteers. The investigator records the offer and names the observing branch that will sign the pass. Legal finalizes a de-identified clip of the corrected flow for regional distribution. Treat appointments by the book. Use intercom for safety, not policy. Call operations when in doubt. Proceed without delay when the record supports the client. A short caption notes that the drill was recorded at a branch under standards, held and used with consent. Managers across the region receive the file and the script before close of business. Quiet scaling is already happening. The board office sends a short message that lands like a seal without fanfare. Preliminary finding accepted for panel. Live file mirrored. External partner confirmed. Commendation posted. Incentives remain frozen until recertification. The CEO reads the lines, thanks the investigator and operations by name, and asks for a last artifact check. Case header confirmed. Logs intact. He pockets his metal card and closes his folder. He steps to the counter, not to perform, but to set a tone. Thank you for your patience, he says to the customers still seated by appointment. We correct in public and continue service in public. Fees for delay are waived. The guard opens the door for a client with a stroller and offers a bottle of water on the way out. A man from earlier nods at the junior teller as he leaves. He says good work in a level voice and does not ask for details because the notices already told the truth. The investigator powers down the field tablet and hands the relationship manager a printed checklist for the morning. Doors at 9 for scheduled intake only, drills at 9:15, external partner at 10. Recertification modules begin for suspended staff at 11, off the floor, observed by another branch. The relationship manager signs the checklist like it is a promise and slides it into a clear sleeve near the time clock. Operations schedules a small dashboard to refresh overnight. Average intake time. Intercom calls. Calls to operations before intercom. Complaint count. Waiver usage. It will sit on the break room screen by 7. The CEO asks for one more tile. Commendations and Truthkeeper notes across the region. Not to shame anyone, but to show what right looks like. IT adds the tile. The last appointment ends in room 2 with a clean set of confirmations. The junior teller walks the client to the door, thanks them for their patience, and points to the number on the notice if they need anything after hours. The guard flips the display so training continues tomorrow by schedule. The lights stay on, but the lobby exhale says the urgent part is over. What remains is the method. The CEO makes one final call, brief and exact. Transfer live file to governance and quality. Copy the regulator, confirm external partner visit logistics, keep the standards active until the independent auditor signs, publish the regional memo and the drill packet tonight. The board office acknowledges, legal confirms distribution, operations verifies the mirrors a last time. He turns back to the counter camera and speaks the same 3 lines that framed the day. Terminate what fails the standard. Freeze what feeds it. Log everything. The words are not a threat. They are a maintenance schedule for dignity. The investigator nods once, sets tomorrow's checklist on the counter, and thanks the team. The relationship manager thanks the customers still within earshot. The guard locks the door and tapes a clean notice at eye level. Open by appointment. Training in progress. Fee waivers honored. The junior teller powers down her terminal and slips the commendation letter into the binder's front sleeve. She does not look at the camera. She looks at the clock and the checklist because there is work in the morning. Outside, the street carries on with its own rhythm. Inside, the file sits complete enough for the night and alive enough to move. The lobby will fill again, the counter will be the same, and the system will have one more repetition of doing the right thing with witnesses. Standards are not about catching people. They are about keeping promises where anyone can see them. The branch that stumbled is learning to stand in that light and call it normal.